Let's start with meditation, and we'll continue with the Glen practice that we began this afternoon. Setting the body into a state of relaxation, stillness, and vigilance. So remember, a vigilant posture is to simply keep the back nice and straight. And at the same time allow the entire body to become completely relaxed, completely at ease. Setting the mind in a state of ease and relaxation, allowing it to come to rest in the present moment, and simply becoming aware of the sensations of the breath. And we can begin by imagining the inner purity of our mind in the form of a small, white, radiant sphere of light in the centre of the chest at the level of the heart. And rouse the thought, how wonderful it would be if I were free of suffering and its causes. May I be free of all suffering and its causes. May I be free of all mental afflictions. And then bring to mind one mental affliction that you would really like to reduce and eliminate. One mental affliction that really causes you a lot of suffering. And imagine this mental affliction in the form of black smoke filling your body. And then with each in-breath, imagine drawing this black smoke into the sphere of light at your heart, completely dissolving it there. So with each in-breath, breathe in with compassion, dissolving and extinguishing this mental affliction at your heart, dissolving it into your inner wisdom, inner purity. Imagine the black cloud is now completely extinguished, and now you're completely free of this mental affliction. And simply rest in that freedom, rest in that purity. Then arouse the thought, how wonderful it would be if I had happiness and its causes. May I be truly well and happy. And then bring to mind one positive quality that you would really like to cultivate and fully possess. And then with each out-breath, imagine rays of light radiating out from the sphere of light at your heart, filling your body and mind, and transforming into everything you need to cultivate this quality. Imagining that you're cultivating it right here and now. And imagine you've now fully cultivated that quality. And just rest in that quality. And just as you wish to be happy and be free of suffering, so does everyone else. So now allow your field of loving kindness and compassion to expand out further. And allow your mind to move around. Whoever comes to mind, attend to them. May you be free of all suffering and its causes. And may you be truly well and happy. And breathing in with compassion, dissolving and extinguishing their suffering at your heart, and breathing out the light of loving kindness, sending to them whatever they need to be happy. Allowing the mind to continue to move around. Whoever comes to mind, whether it's an individual or even a group of people, attend to them. Breathing in with compassion, breathing out the light of loving kindness. And then release all appearances and allow the mind to come to rest. Resting in that inner purity of mind, which is in the nature of loving kindness and compassion. Let's start with a summary of the Shamatha training that we've been engaging in the last 5 days. The first point we mentioned was this idea of preconditions, how to set up our life in such a way to support this practice, and actually that's going to be the main topic this evening. And then we talked about the actual practice. And we said that actually any practice always has 2 parts, the actual meditation and then daily life, what we do for the rest of the day to continue that practice. And this is often where people fall down in their practice, is maybe they put a lot of effort into their meditation, but then the rest of the day they don't do anything to support that practice. They just run around like crazy as normal, and then they wonder why their morning meditation's not really having any impact in their life, because the effort we're putting into the practice in the morning gets counteracted by running around reacting all day long. And so we're going to have a look at the end of this retreat, on the last day, some tips about how to do this. I mean, already we've mentioned a few things briefly, but we'll speak more about that on the last day. And then, of course, meditation always also has 2 parts. Preparation and actual. And again, here is often where people let themselves down in practice, is that they either don't do this preparation or they don't do it well. They just sit down and start meditating. And then they wonder why things are not going so well. So, of course, what we've seen is that we really need to prepare the body and the mind very well for meditation, so that more likely that the meditation will go better. So, with preparation, of course, spend as much time as you need to prepare body and mind. Some days you may need more time. In fact, you may need more or less the whole session to rest, get up a good posture, release tension in the body, release a lot of agitation in the mind. you may find you may need the whole session to do that. That's time well spent. Other days you can quickly set up a good posture, bring the mind into the right state. So then you just take as much time as you need. Don't cut this short. And then in the actual meditation, of course, in the Shamatha training, we looked at 4 things. The first one was qualities. What qualities are we cultivating? So what we saw here was that we added one extra quality that normally you won't see in the meditation text, and that is the quality of relaxation. And so maybe some of you found that out in the last 4 or 5 days, that if we're not very relaxed in the body and the mind, things don't go very well. We get a lot of agitation, a lot of tension, a lot of distraction. So this is really the basis that's where we start. There is no point in having good focus on the object while we're tense, because we're just going to get agitated, exhausted, and we're setting up more bad habits. So even if you're focusing very clearly on the object, but you notice a lot of tension, then we need to release that tension. Release, release, release. Because if we don't, we're building up bad habits that are going to even become more difficult to correct later. And so here, of course, for example, very common that a lot of tension comes up when we're focusing on the nostrils, because it's difficult. So if you can't release the tension, don't stay there. Come back down to the abdomen, full body, relax, relax. Similarly, observing the mind. Often people get very tense on that because it's difficult to watch. So if you find a lot of tension there, don't stay there. Go back into the body or go back into awareness and just relax, relax, relax. So really pay attention to this relaxation and really establish a good basis in that relaxation, and then the rest will go a lot better. And then we looked at objects, what object to use in this practice. So, of course, the general recommendation is use the object that works best for you. And in this retreat, we were working with 3 objects: the breath, mind, and then awareness itself. And probably many of you found the mind probably the most difficult because it's a subtle object and we're not in the habit of observing our mind. So if you find that too difficult, then go back either into the breath practice, or if you found that you could get into the awareness practice, get into that practice, work with those practices, and of course you can just use those whatever practice all the way. Or if you really feel like you'd like to do the mind practice, but really it's just too difficult now, start with the breath, or start with the awareness. Work with that for some weeks, months or longer until the mind becomes more stable, more clear, more focused. Then we can slowly shift into the mind practice and using either the breath as a bit of an anchor or the awareness as an anchor to move into that practice. And of course there are other objects we can use. I briefly mentioned that in some traditions the object, particularly in Tibetan Buddhism, some traditions often use a mental image of a Buddha as the object. But again, for probably many of us, that's going to be very difficult because we're not very good at visualizing. But some people are naturally gifted at visualizing. So for those people who are, you may find that actually a mental image of a Buddha might be the very best object to use. And then we looked at tools. And of course, the main tool we're using is mindfulness. Mindfulness, our ability to hold the object. And then, of course, together with that comes quality control, the introspection. So in this Shamatha training, we are really strengthening mindfulness. We are cultivating mindfulness. And the stronger and the better our mindfulness is, then actually automatically the quality control automatically improves. And that will then, by improving mindfulness, we're going to improve our attention skills, our ability to concentrate. And then the last point we looked at was faults. And we saw there that the first fault was this fault of laziness. So like everything in our life, if we don't really see any benefit in that activity, we're going to be very lazy when it comes to doing it. So similarly here, if we're just doing it because someone said we should do it, I think we're not going to put any effort into it. So again, remember to overcome that fault of laziness, to really reflect on the benefits of this practice, to really appreciate all of the benefits, the direct and indirect benefits that this practice will give us, and that really this practice is the doorway into genuine happiness and well-being. And then we'll be very enthusiastic about doing the practice. And then of course the other main fault here, the twin imbalances of dullness and distraction, or laxity and excitation. And again here, simply to use that introspection to monitor, to notice that we're falling into dullness and distraction, and adjusting the focus as necessary. And so if we do this, of course, we can move along those stages to Shamatha. And so then, of course, that was the third thing we looked at here, is the stages of progress. We use the classic presentation, what's called the 9 mental abidings, that windy road diagram, to really show what stages we go through in this practice and what are the challenges at each stage of the progress. But then also we briefly looked at that other model that's often used if we're using the mind as the object, that 4-stage model, the waterfall, fast-flowing river, slow-moving river, still lake, that model. And then we tried to sort of correlate them a little bit using that one chart there the other day. So of course it's always good to have some roadmap of where we're going, so we sort of know where we're at and what lies ahead. But of course here, not to get caught up in craving and attachment. I have to get there, I have to get there, I have to get there. So again, we can only move forward in the progress in the present moment, so simply knowing what the practice is, the direction we want to go, and then put whatever effort we can manage in the present moment to slowly move along that stages of progress. So that's just a very brief overview of the different elements of what we looked at in the last days. So again, on the last day of the retreat, we're going to look more detail about how to integrate not only the Shamatha training but also the Vipashyana training that we're about to enter into tomorrow, how to integrate these into daily life so that we can really make some progress in both of these practices. So now what I'd like to do is have a look at preconditions. How to set up our life in such a way to support this practice. Before I do that, any questions about any of the points here?
Can you remind again about the preparation? It's about the posture?
Yeah. So in preparation, we sort of talked about body, speech, mind. So body, of course, is posture. So again, the two key elements with posture is the back straight and the body relaxed. And then, of course, we looked at all the different leg positions and hands and what to do